Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Woman in the Dunes, a Japanese drama from 1964 that was directed by Hiroshi Teshigahara. Now this story follows an entomologist schoolteacher who goes on an expedition to collect insects that inhabit sand dunes. He misses the last available ride for the day, so the villagers suggest that he stay the night. They guide him down a rope ladder to a house in a sand quarry, where he stays with a young widow whose husband and daughter were killed in a sandstorm. So she spends her days digging sand for sale to be used in concrete and to save the house from burial, because the house is inside basically like a small pit in the middle of the sand dunes with really high walls around it. Pretty interesting environment. Now after spending the night, however, our protagonist finds himself in an odd predicament, and I'll just leave it at that. Now the most obvious compliment to be made is with regards to the sandscapes, which are captured with fantastic camera work. The sand itself in this film, I think, it doesn't merely act as a background environment, but it exists as kind of an omnipresent force that's both beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Even the camera close-ups of human body parts that are used in this film are valuable here because they show how the sand invades even the smallest human crevices and pores, you know what I mean? This film is very strong on a visual level, and I think the black and white color scheme is advantageous here because it makes the visuals pop a bit more. Now, one of my favorite moments is a scene that shows fairly early on the woman sleeping naked, but it very lightly covered in sand that has kind of fallen through the cracks of the ceiling, or the roof of her little house. It's a very striking, memorable image that also helps to accentuate the relentlessness of their sandy environment. So the visuals really play a key role to this film from start to finish. Scoring is also very good. The film is surprisingly dreamy and creepy in spots as well, and much of this is due to the music and sound choices. Now, there's definitely more to Woman in the Dunes than mere aesthetics, of course. If you decide to watch this film, and you definitely should, be sure to go on the internet and read some of the reviews and interpretations of the story after watching it, which are very interesting. There is some symbolism to mine out of this film, and our protagonist has a very pronounced character arc at the end of the film. So where he starts off is different from where he ends up, at least in terms of his way of thinking. Now, many of these observations are fairly easy to identify for viewers who are paying attention, but a few are a bit obscure, so that's why I recommend after you watch the film, read up on it. There's some interesting stuff to get out of this. And I mention this because it will benefit you to go into Woman in the Dunes with that mindset, just to know that there's some symbolism here to get out of it. Now, this film also has a very psychological angle to it, and it's easy for the viewer to comprehend the sense of isolation because the protagonist is placed in such an unnerving scenario. Now, some viewers may be put off by the runtime of 2 hours and 27 minutes. It's pretty long, you know what I'm saying, compared to the typical film. I personally did not have a problem with it, but I'd like to point it out because I want you to know what you're getting into here. It's a little bit of a longer sit. Woman in the Dunes actually received 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Foreign Language Film and Best Director. And somewhat surprisingly, Teshigahara made a handful of documentaries during his career, which has limited to a certain extent his dramatic works to a fairly small handful when compared to other Japanese directors who worked in the same era. Just the other day, I was thinking of a possible top 10 list for this director, since I'm doing that quite a bit this year, hopefully, but realized that a top 5 would likely be more appropriate in this case, just because he hasn't made that many dramatic films, and his documentaries are kind of hard to get a hold of. So I hope to post the, basically the top 5 Teshigahara list in the near future, so look out for that. Now, if you have not seen many Japanese films from the 1960s, Woman in the Dunes is practically a must-watch, given the critical acclaim, and most people who have seen it really like it. It's definitely one of the landmark films of the 1960s in the Japanese film industry, so really should put this as a higher priority. It's a very cool movie that's a bit different, you know what I mean? It's good stuff, and it is widely available. on Blu-ray and DVD in the United States. That's the Criterion release. It's also streaming on Amazon Instant and Filmstruck. And as always, we will see you next time.